Hello everyone, I'm Gopan Shivashankaran. I lead the solutioning team for SecureWorks in the Middle East and Africa region. I've been with SecureWorks for, this is my 7th year with SecureWorks. Worked for several MSSPs throughout my career. I've been in security space for about 17 years now. The topic of the day is SIEM. Now, is the era of SIEM over? Now, most of you, if not all, would have consumed or implemented SIEM at some point of your careers. Now, SIEMs, they've been around for about 20 years now. So what I want to do is we look at how these SIEM solutions have evolved, some of the typical challenges with SIEM solutions, and how people are overcoming those challenges. So we could learn from some of the best practices on that space. We can look at that. I'll also cover the shift in the threat detection scenario. So, the past few years, how the industry has evolved, how the market has converged into some specific areas around that. Could be threat detection response, could be MDR, XDR, areas like that. So we can talk a little bit more on that. Now, before I do all that, for those of you who must be wondering who SecureWorks is, let me give a quick overview of what we do. We as SecureWorks, we are the security arm of Dell Technologies. So we have been operational since 1998. So this is our 22nd year in operation. We started as a managed intrusion prevention system company long ago. And we've been doing only security ever since then. We got acquired by Dell in 2011 and we became Dell SecureWorks. And then again in 2016, we went public. So we are still very much part of Dell Technologies, one of those 7 companies part of Dell, and majority of shares owned by Dell, but we are a public company. What we do, we used to be, why I'm saying we used to be is because there is an MSSP Magic Quadrant which used to come out from Gartner. And we've been a leader on that for the last 10 years. And 2019 was the last report that came out, and we're still a leader on that. So we are known as world's best MSSP, a managed security service provider, by the likes of Gartner and Forrester and people like that. That's what we do as a primary business. Currently, we are monitoring about 4,100 organizations globally in around 59 countries. And from these many organizations, we collect about 400 billion events every single day, right? So what we do is make sure that we collect the logs, collect the telemetry, collect the events. We make sure that we identify the needle in the haystack. What makes sense for a client, we do that. In addition to this, we have a very strong threat research organization. So we call them as Counter Threat Unit. It is headed by retired Colonel Barry Hensley, so from the US Army. So he heads that team with extremely, I would say, intelligent resources within the security space. Some of the best brains in security work for SecureWorks in that particular team. We're very proud of that team. And there are about 85 researchers globally, and all they do is threat research. So we are tracking about 200 threat actor groups worldwide. And in individual countries and all that. I mean, if you're interested to know more, we have put some details on our website on some of the threat actors and samples and some of the tactics they do. I would really request you to go to the website. You may find this interesting, www.secureworks.com. We offer the threat detection platform, so we call it as TDR. I'll talk on the evolution of that in the coming slides without specifically talking about our product, but why we did that. Where it's a SaaS-based security platform, that can be consumed by organizations as a platform or as a service. We offer an MDR service on top of that. So that's another area where SecureWorks provide our services to the client as a MDR offering. It's an XDR platform. I'll talk about these 2 areas in the coming slides. That's something which we do. We also have a very strong consulting practice. We do have a security, we call them as SWAG, SecureWorks Adversary Group, who would perform penetration testing and red teaming and adversarial testing. We would say that. We do that. We have about 100 plus people. I think we've got 117 people when I last checked. That team is continuously growing. We are doing lots of penetration testing across the globe with that team. We've got a very strong incident response team. Incident response is very crucial in modern world. We have, again, 103 people part of that team, which is, again, pretty large for incident responders as a team. So globally, we have about 2,300 employees. That's SecureWorks employee strength. I mean, that's pretty small compared to the overall Dell team, which could be hundreds of thousands of people. But we are treated as a separate elite group within Dell Technologies, and we kind of we're proud to call ourselves as SecureWorks, being a security arm of Dell. Without further ado, let me get to the topic of the day, which is SIEM. Now, we all have been hearing vendors talk about SIEM, vendors talking about capabilities of SIEM. I mean, again, with a disclaimer, I have nothing against any of the SIEM vendors. All of them are pretty good. You talk about Splunk or Logarithm or QRadars of the world, pretty good. Where it fails a little bit is that they give lots of empty promises. Right? So SIEM will not do any of these things in a real effective way. So for you who have consumed SIEM would understand what I'm trying to convey here, because SIEM solutions always struggle when it is given millions, if not billions of events to a platform and throwing thousands of alerts at you. So thousands of alerts coming to a SOC at any given point in time, it's a bit of a challenge. Regardless of whether you have like 20 people in a room or 100 people in a room, if you're getting 5,500 alerts in a day and saying out of these 5,500, these are the 720 that is critical, that's a problem. And SIEM solutions, and typically, I mean, I would like to look at characteristics of SIEM solution, right? So SIEM is very simple for those of you who would not have used SIEM. I mean, you collect the logs to a common platform, apply normalization, correlation, and then give the output to the client, saying like, oh, this is what you need to look at as an alert. Now, many a times, SIEM solutions got challenges such as implementation cost, because you're building something from scratch. You're not having something which has been running for many years. You're building something from scratch. It requires serious amount of implementation, ongoing tuning, maintenance, because unless you make sure that the content is updated on a regular basis, it's pretty ineffective. So you need to make sure that you have the content updated on a regular basis. The content creation itself is a big task within SIEM. The use cases, your correlation rules, you need to make sure that that is kind of done properly. And then licensing cost. I mean, SIEM solutions are licensed either based on events per second, or it is based on storage per day, consumption per day. Now, most of the SIEM solutions, I mean, you talk about QRadar or Splunk or Logarithm, all of them are in that mode, which would require you to have the monthly recurring cost would be it'll become very unpredictable in nature, just because of the reason that you don't know how much events your proxy would throw at a SIEM or your next generation firewall would throw at a SIEM. So that is always a challenge, right? I've had conversation with CISOs saying like, oh, I mean, I've disabled my proxy log because I don't want to get another big bill, which will be rejected by my finance team. And that's not effective, right? And when you have a solution which is unable to consume the logs the way you want from a security threat detection perspective, that won't give you what you want. So that's a big challenge of that. Now, this is from a technology piece. So let's assume that we overcome all these challenges. We've got a SIEM solutions deployed. It's pretty good. Now, you still need to have a team to monitor that. How do you monitor SIEM? So threat monitoring could be either an in-house job, somebody building a team, we call as SOC, Security Operations Center, or you outsource this to someone else, or this could be a hybrid model somewhere in the middle. Now, let's talk about an in-house model. Now, I just looked at for a SOC, what kind of teams would you need? I just looked at that example. And I just took some examples of number of people would you need. Definitely you need to have SOC analyst for sure. You have about 6 people in the SOC, bare minimum. You need to have a SOC manager, one person. I didn't even consider his vacations and all that. There should be incident responders, somebody at level 3 in that mode, or threat analyst, level 2, level 3 kind of a people. And then obviously you need to provide staff training. So bare minimum, you need to have 9 people to run a semi-decent SOC, I would say. Because to cover 24/7, you need this many people, right? Now that obviously take cost depending on where you deploy. I mean, I live in Dubai, in Middle East, resources are expensive. I can talk about that, but this is applicable in UK, this is applicable in other parts of Europe, this is applicable in Australia, in America. Resources are very difficult to find. And it's said that, I was reading a statistic which say that for every 20 jobs out there in security, there is only one right candidate, right? So people in security space are lucky. There is almost zero unemployment in security if you have the right skills, right? So that is a challenge for organization to retain people, have their own SOC. It's always a challenge. Now, alternate option is MSS, Managed Security Service. When you talk about Managed Security Service, it's typically the remote SIM monitoring. Now, you have a SIM, you remotely monitor SIM, or that's one mode of looking at it. I mean, Managed Security Service is a very vague terminology. Everybody claims to be MSSPs these days, right? So you need to look at, they could be doing platform management, vulnerability management, compliance management, device management, whatever you name it, could all be called as Managed Security Service. I've seen some firewall vendors calling themselves as Managed Security Service. It's all funny, but everything is called as Managed Security Service these days, but primarily it is about alert monitoring. That's what I'm talking about now. From a security SOC perspective, it's alert monitoring. You get alerts and you need somebody to look at the alerts. Now, the caution with that is most of the time, it's a bell ringing service. Somebody saying, Mr. Customer, there is a problem. I want you to look into it. And that's it. So that lacks investigation. There is definitely no incident response or threat hunting. And more importantly, the quality of resources or the coverage may not be great. Now, what I mean by that is, I just looked at NIST cybersecurity framework. I just looked at NIST, but this could be anything, right? I mean, NIST is one example. From identify to recover. So there could be, first MSSP could be good at one particular area, second MSSP could be good at something else, third one could be good at somewhere else. To get someone who is really good at the entire portfolio or from identification of an alert till recovery, that's a very difficult challenge to have. Now, more importantly, the accountability of an MSSP, MSSP can always say that I didn't alert you because I didn't have logs. Absence of logs is something which I mean, that's always a frequent comment which you could hear on why MSSP didn't alert you. Now, why logs were missing? Logs were missing because there was no interception. Now, you need to have a security control, you need to have a breach, and there should be a security control which is intercepting that. Now, once you intercept, there is a log. Now, if there is no interception, how do you operate? Because why there is no interception? Because threat actors are getting smarter day by day, right? Now, that's where I would like to talk about the pyramid of pain. Now, earlier, when you have detection mechanism based on bad IP address or bad domain names, that won't be, I mean, people can easily change their IP address. It's very easy. 203.17.2.6 today would be detected as bad. They can change to 2.7 or 2.9. And it can still go on for a few weeks before that gets identified. So the more smarter you are as a threat actor, the difficult it will become for security controls or MSPs or SIM providers, anybody to detect you, unless they are operating at a TTP level, which is TTP's tactics, techniques, and procedures. So you need to look at that from that angle. And then that's where you have the ability to look at not logs, but also telemetry. What I mean by telemetry is enough information you gather from a system. To, when I say that's a sample, right? That's what we do with RedCloak. But you need to ask yourself this question. How much of your telemetry are you gathering from your existing EDR, from your existing controls? Do you have visibility to that level? That is extremely important. Now, this is where the MSS space is evolving, right? So we spoke about SIM, spoke about in-house, we spoke about the MSS. Now I'm talking about MSS getting evolved into the next stage. So initially it was just device management, and then we are talking about a co-managed SIM, a remote monitoring of a SIM, and it is still dependent on very much the SIM. But now we are talking about an area which is next, which is more of not only just alerting, but also performing investigation, giving context to the client on why I am alerting you. These are the reasons, because I did the investigation. And here is what you can do from an orchestration perspective. This is what I can do from an incident response perspective. We recommend you to do threat hunting. This is what we do. So that is more of contextual intelligence and giving you more as a working in partnership than just being in silo and alerting them. So I've tried to put that into into perspective using a diagram like this, where you have a monitoring and investigation team, you have an incident response team, you have a hunting team, and then you have a content management team for the platform. So the platform would be typically owned by the MDR provider. When I say platform, this could be your SIEM solution, this could be your EDR solution. So that is owned by the provider. And there are different teams. And the teams are the difference with an MSS versus this. Here the teams are working in, they are not working in silos, they are working in collaborative way, right? So you have a monitoring and investigation sending alerts to the team to would perform incident response and confirm that, oh, there is an escalation. There need not be a full-fledged incident response. It could be a incident handling, incident management, whatever we call it, level 2 kind of stuff. If required, we may have to do threat hunting, which will again give a true positive alert. Now, eventually, there are a few characteristics of the solution. One is investigation, which is very important. Second is incident response. Third is the platform technology stack, which is part of the solution to perform incident response, should be part of the solution. Ability to do threat hunting or compromise assessment, which is again part of the solution. Giving contextual insights, which is again important to do that. And then obviously disrupt or contain, depending on your orchestration, your automation capabilities, how you can contain an incident, how you can disrupt, how you can do process disruption, how you can isolate a host, how you do all that. Now, to achieve any of this, or pretty much all of this, you need to have a really good technology, a platform, a technology stack that is capable of doing all of this in a nice way. And that's where the terminology came in existence called XDR. So X you can, I mean, going back to the school days, algebra days, we can say X could be anything, right? So I would say it is anything detection and response, right? So you not only look at endpoint detection response or network detection response, you look at anything that can give us meaningful security, telemetry or logs for that. Now, XDR is not a technology. XDR is not an architecture. XDR is a movement. It's a movement in security operation centers to bring together telemetry from many security controls to paint a more clear picture on what is happening in the environment. And then to add a level of automation to help people respond more effectively based on the environment. Now, we are collecting all this from various different sources with your endpoint, your firewalls, your web application firewalls, your web email gateways, your DLP, your vulnerability management solution, pretty much all of that. Put that into a data lake, apply normalization, apply correlation, make sure that you have an integration with your incident response workflow. You have integration with your orchestration platform, your SOAR, your automation platform. Make sure that you have other API integration with your ticketing systems. Pretty much everything working together. I would like to call this as defense in concert. Then defense in depth used to be the term many years ago. Now it's more of defense in concert. You can't just keep on building defense in depth because it's not directly proportional. The more security investments you make, the risk reduction, those days are gone. You need to make sure that whatever you have in place, they work with each other, they collaborate, which is extremely important. Now, that's where the industry is converging. So that's where the market is heading, right? So earlier, if you're familiar with the Gartner adaptive methodology, it used to talk about predict, prevent, detect, respond with different EPPs and IDS, IPS, vulnerability management, or SIEM, UEBA, EDR, all of them. Now we are seeing a trend where all of this is converging into threat detection response or a next-gen SIEM as such. I mean, there is still no terminology existing like that, but that's where the market is heading. Or this could be XDR, which I briefly mentioned. Let me give you a quick takeaway from what I wanted to before I wrap up. So the first most important thing is you need to relook at your SIEM. So is your SIEM capable of some of the areas which I talked about today? Are you just looking at logs or are you looking at telemetry, which is extremely important? Now, MDR as a terminology is not just managed EDR. Now, there are some vendors out there who just say that you just need to look at endpoint. And you know some of the obvious vendors which I could be referring to. I don't want to take names here, but that's not true. You need to look at other important areas within the network, which is extremely important. EDR is just one dimension of, and don't get me wrong, EDR is important, but you need to look at other areas also, which is important. You need to look at how you're improving your investigation workflow. Now, I hear terminologies like orchestration as just a tool. Orchestration is not just a tool. You need to look at it from a playbook perspective. Unless you, if you have a really smooth operation and if you automate it, it's going to be brilliant. But imagine you have a bad operation and if you automate it, that's going to be a disaster. So making sure that your playbooks are good, making sure that you are having a nice workflow from an incident management perspective, that is important. Making sure that you have a decent team to do incident response, threat hunting, compromise assessment, that is extremely important. And also make sure that you're paving way to the future, which is XDR. Now that's where the market is heading. That's where the industry is heading. Defense in concert. If you forget everything which I said today, except this one thing, I would say that is this: defense in concert. You need to look at XDR as a concept, because by failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. Thank you. If you have any questions, please drop me a note. That's my email.